Thank you for joining the fifth model of the SurveyToGo scripting online training. In this model, we're going to discuss text piping. Text piping is the term used in SurveyToGo to describe dynamic text replacement that is often required when scripting a questionnaire, as questions and answers texts may often depend and vary on answers that we're giving on previous questions, or depending on a specific dynamic logic. Dynamic text replacement can be made both for question texts, answers texts, and surveyor instructions text. If we want to dynamically replace a question text, then we would use the following functions: the setText if we want to replace the entire question text, or the setText format if we want to replace only a specific part within that text. Similarly, we have functions for answers and topics. We would use the setAnswerText if we want to replace the entire answer text, or setAnswerText format if we want to replace only a certain part within the answer text. Similarly, we have the functions for topic as setTopicText and setTopicText format. Surveyor instruction text is handled in the same way. The function names for the surveyor instructions are setInstructionsText if we want to replace the entire instruction text within the script, or setInstructionsText format if we only want to replace dynamically part of that text. Text piping is done by a combination of placing the text placeholder within the text that we would want to replace. You can see the curly brackets 0, curly brackets 1, etc. And in combination with the above functions. Text piping can have multiple instances within a text, so we can replace several parts within a specific text, for example a question text. The first part of the text that we would want to replace would be represented by the curly bracket 0 text placeholder. The second part of the text that we would want to replace would be represented by a curly brackets 1, and so on. There is no limitation to the amount of text parts that we can replace within a question, an answer, or within the instructions. And we will see several examples of those text piping methods. If you do not remember exactly how to use the functions, you can always refer to the online functions library that can be referenced by the link that you can see on that presentation. If you do not remember the link or cannot find the presentation, you can always go to our knowledge base at support.doobler.net, search for function library, and you will be directed to the article that guides you to the link to the function library. Let's look at several examples. As we've made on previous models, we will demonstrate it by looking at a simple questionnaire. This questionnaire contains several questions that discuss car brands, and we will script it question after question, and each time we will demonstrate a new different technique of text piping. As you can see, I've already entered the questions and answers into SurveyToGo and created the sample script skeleton, so it only includes the text and the answers and some of the logic that I'll be demonstrating. And let's see question after question how we actually implement the dynamic text replacement logic. So I got back to the questionnaire, and let's start going over the questionnaire. So the first question is asking about which of the following brands are you familiar with, and we have a set of predefined car brands with the others specified at the end. It's a multiple selection question, of course. And the second question is, which of the following car brands is your favorite? And as you can see, we have the same car brands list in the second question, and we have one specific logical instruction that tells us to pull from A1 the car brand and the car brand that was mentioned in the other specify if was mentioned, and display it as the last answer. So let's look at the script and let's see what I've already entered. You can see that I've entered the question. So the first one is, which of the following brands are you familiar with? And you can see I've added the question text into the question tab, and you can see that I have a answer scale for the car brands. It's called brands, and it is used in both question number 1 and in question number 2. So question number 2 is, which of the below is your favorite brand? And you can see that I'm also using the car brands in question number 2. So you remember we were asked to replace the other specify answer with the actual brand name that was mentioned in the other specify answer of the previous question if was specified. So let's see how we implement it. If you follow the previous sessions, you know by now that we are going to do that in the start script of the question, where we control how a certain question would be displayed. So the first thing that I'm going to do in the second question is filter my brands based on what was mentioned in the first question. So I'm going to filter answers by answers of my current question based on what was answered in A1. Why? Because I only want to allow the respondent to select the favorite brand from the brands that the respondent mentioned that he's aware of. The second thing that I'm doing is I'm going to ask if in the first question the other specify was mentioned, and if the other specify was mentioned, I would want to replace the text of my other specify question in this question. So I would want to actually replace the other specify with the actual brand name with the brand that was mentioned in the previous question. So I'm going to use the set answer text. You remember set answer text is the function we use to replace the entire answer text. The function receives, you can see here, 3 parameters. The first one is the question that we want to refer to, which is we want to replace the text of an answer in our question. What question do we want? What answer text we want to replace? We want to replace the text of the other specify answer, which is the last one. So I'm using a more generic way rather than just specifying an index, which is in this case 9. I'm using the get answer count of KirkWest, which basically provides the number of answers, which also corresponds to the index of the last answer. So I've made it a slightly more generic. Rather than writing 9, I wrote get answer count. And what is the text that I'm gonna replace the other specify with? I'm replacing it with the additional answer text. So the function that returns the brand or the text that was entered into the other specify field on the previous question. So again, I'm taking the other specify, I'm taking the text that was entered in question A1 in the other specify text box, and I'm using the additional answer text function, which is the function that returns to me the actual content of an other specify text box. So let's see how it runs. So let's start the emulator. Let's select some of the options. So Mazda, Renault, and let's mention the other specify to be Seat. And let's see what are the favorite brands that we're allowed to select from. And you can see that the list is a filtered list from the previous question, and you can see that the other specify was replaced with the Seat as required. Let's now look at another example. Let's look at question number 3, and let's see what is required from us from dynamic text replacement requirements. So let's read it. Question number 3 says, why is favorite brand your favorite brand? So instead of the favorite brand placeholder, you're expected to basically pipe in the favorite brand that was selected in the previous question. In addition to that, you can see that in the answers as well, there are places where you're requested to replace the placeholder with the brand name that was mentioned in A2. Now remember, in A2, you can either select one of the pre-fixed brand names like Mazda, Toyota, Renault, or there's an option that you would select as your favorite the other specified brand that was mentioned, if you remember, in A1, and then we piped it in the second question. So let's look at how the script would look like. So if you remember from the presentation, I mentioned that the text replacement placeholder is marked with the curly brackets, and then there's a number in it. So the first text that you replace would be 0, the second text that you replace would be 1, etc. And we'll see an example of multiple other specifiers, multiple text replacement later in the session. But as we have only one place in the question text that we want to replace, we have the curly brackets and 0. Similarly, you remember that we had to replace also the text in the answers. So in the first answer, we have only one part of text that we would want to replace. So we have a curly brackets with 0 as well here. Similarly in the second answer and the third answer. So let's have a look at the script that implements that dynamic text piping. As you remember, again, we would do that in the start script of the question. So let's look at what do we have here as code. So the first part basically takes care of the fact that I want to first keep the brand name that I'm going to pipe the placeholders with the favorite brand. So you remember that I mentioned it can be either from one of the prefixed brand names, car brand names, or the other specified. So basically this is what the first part does, and if you selected one of the prefix brands, then that code would take care of it, because we take the selected answer text, but we have an exception. What if the other specify was mentioned? The selected answer text of the other specify would be other specify. So we need to take not the answer text, but the actual content that was entered into the other specify line. So how we do that? So basically we ask, if my favorite brand is the other specified brand, then I'm gonna place into the favorite brand, and I'm gonna override the other specify with the additional answer text, which is basically what returns the content of the other specify field from question number 1. So from question A1. Then what we do is we take that value and we use it to pipe the placeholders that we have in the script. So as you can see, we're using the set text format and set answer text format functions. So the first thing that we do is we were going to replace the question text place holder. the one that we have in the question text, then that part is going to replace the text placeholder of the first answer. That code would replace the second answer, the text placeholder of the second answer, and that code would replace the third one. Let's look at the parameters that those functions receive. So as you can see, it receives the question where you want to perform the text replacement, the index of the answer where you want to replace the text of, and the text that you want to place instead of the placeholder. So let's see now how it runs. Let's run the emulator. Let's select several brands like Toyota, Ford, and maybe mention Seat. The filtering that we've implemented was done, and then the text piping of the other as well. Now, if we select Toyota, you'd see that Toyota was replacing the placeholders that we've placed in the question and answers. And if I'm selecting Seat, you see that Seat has been replaced. So basically, I tested now both options. One, if the prefix brands were mentioned, as well as taking care of the case where the other specify was selected as the favorite brand. I'm going to be closing the emulator, and let's look at the fourth question of the questionnaire. So question number 4 in my questionnaire asks, where have you heard about, again, the favorite brand in the past 3 months? And the answers can be TV, radio, internet, or an other specify. So let's see how we implement that in our script. So as you can see, I've already copy pasted the question text into the script, and as you can see, I replaced the favorite brand with the SurveyToGo text placeholder, and those are the answers that were part of the questionnaire: TV, radio, internet, or other specify. To replace the text placeholder in the question text, again, what we're going to do, we're going to do that in the start script. Let's see how it's done. As you can see, I'm using the very similar code that I used in the previous question to first capture the favorite brand into the variable that I created. So it is either the fixed brand, or if it's the other specified, then I'm taking the text that was mentioned in the other specify field. And then what I'm using is set text format. I'm using again format because I'm replacing only part of my text. I only want to replace the placeholder, and I'm replacing it with the favorite brand name that I set up in the first part of the script. Again, it's with every exercise. Let's see how this is running. I've opened the emulator. Let's now pick several brands. So Renault, BMW, Kia, and then my other specify. I'm going to type in Seat. Press next. You can see those are the brands that were filtered, including my other specify. If I'm selecting BMW, then you can see that BMW has been properly piped in A3, and then, of course, I'm going to pick one answer. And as you can see, it has been also replaced in my question text. I'm going to close the emulator, and let's move to another example. So let's look at question number 5 of the questionnaire. Question number 5 asks me, what was the content of the article ad of the favorite brand on the media that I mentioned that I heard about in the past 3 months. So I would need to dynamically pipe in 2 text parts. The first part is the favorite brand on the question text, and the second one I would need to pipe in the other specified media if I mentioned that I heard about the favorite brand on that media. So let's see how this is being scripted. So you can see this is question number 5, and what was the content of the article of the favorite brand that we saw in the media. And the topics are the topics that I took from the questionnaire. And let's see how we scripted the logical flow that is requested from us in that question based on what was mentioned in question number A4. So based on what we said that we've heard about the favorite brand on. So again, this is done in the start script of the question. So the first thing that we're doing is we're using the filter topics by answers on this question, because we only want to ask the question about the media that you mentioned that you've heard the favorite brand in. So the first thing that we're doing is we're filtering the topics based on the answers of A4. Then this is already very familiar to you. We're capturing the favorite brand, whether it was the a brand from the fixed list or another specified. Then what we're doing is on the question text, we're using set text format to set it as we've done in A4. That's exactly the same. So we replace the placeholder with the favorite brand. And an additional thing that we want to do is we want to replace the other specified topic text with the actual media that we mentioned on the previous question as the other specified media. And how we do that? We use the set topic text, not the set topic text format, because we replace the entire topic text. It receives the parameters on what question does this refer to, and this is, I'm going to replace a topic text of my question. The topic is that I'm going to replace the text for is the last topic in my list, and I'm going to be using the other specify box content of the previous question, and I'm going to be I'm referring to the last answer that was my other specify answer. So let's see how it runs. I'm going to start the emulator. So let's start by selecting some of the brands, Mazda, Renault, and then Seat. We saw that the text piping is working properly, so let's select one of the fixed ones. So that is Renault, and Renault is an excellent value for money. So where have you heard about Renault in the past 3 months? I've heard about Renault in the on the radio, and then on Facebook. Now in A5, what do we expect to see? We expect to see that the question text has been adjusted properly. So what was the content of article of Renault on that media? And on the radio, I can say I listened to a jingle, and on Facebook, I can say that friend mentioned he bought it. But as you can see, I took the media name, so Facebook, from the previous question, and I replaced the topic text with Facebook. So it dynamically fits the other specify media name that is mentioned on the previous question. Okay, so let's look at the next question that we have in the questionnaire. So the next question in my questionnaire, which is also the last one, we will see how multiple text replacement is done. So as you can see, the question text was the article or ad regarding my favorite brand on the media that I mentioned as other, favorable or not. So here we're required to basically replace two parts of the question text, two different text parts with two different text. So let's see how this is done. So as you can see, I've already entered the question text and placed in the placeholders as I mentioned. If you have more than one text parts that you want to replace, then you would use the in the curly brackets numbers in a growing order. So the first text part that you're going to replace is going to have the 0 number in, the second one 1, and I could have added 2 and 3. It depends on the amount of text parts that you would want to replace. And again, there's no limit to the that amount. And the answers are yes and no, of course. And since that question is only asked if I mentioned an other specify media, then of course I need to add an entrance rule here. So let's look at the entrance rule that I added. As you can see, in the entrance rule, I ask if the last answer, which is also the other specify, was mentioned. A4 is the media question, where if you heard about the favorite brand in the past 3 months. So that's the entrance rule. So I'm only going to enter if my other specify media was mentioned. Let's see now how we deal with the text piping, and let's look at of course, the start script of the question. So as you can see, there are two parts that I need to pipe in. The first one is the favorite brand, and we already know how to capture it, how to set it. So I did it exactly as I did that in the previous question. And let's look at how we use the set text format slightly differently than we used it before. So when we have more than one text to pipe in, then the text that we are going to use to replace the placeholders are going to be mentioned after the question number in the order of the appearances of the numbers. So favorite brand is going to replace the curly bracket 0, that part is going to replace the curly bracket 1, etc. So let's see what am I using here to pipe the placeholders. So favorite brand, as we did before, it's going to replace the that placeholder, so the name of the favorite brand. And what I'm doing here, and we saw that as well on the previous example, I'm taking the other specify content of question number 4, which is the basically the media name that was mentioned. I don't need to check if I have it or not, because I know that this question is only displayed if the if the other specify media was mentioned, and we took care of it because we've placed the entrance rule. So let's see how this is running. So let's mention several brands: Mazda, Ford, BMW, and let's also add Seat. Let's take Ford as the favorite brand in this case. And why is Ford your favorite brand? Because my father owned Ford when I was young, and I still remember how it was. where have you heard about Ford in the past 3 months? So it was on TV, and then it was on Twitter. On TV it was an ad, and on Twitter it was mentioned by my favorite basketball player. And on A6, what we'll see is basically the fact that we replaced Ford and Twitter in the right places. So was the article ad regarding Ford on Twitter favorable? And if I go back just to show you what happens if I'm not mentioning another specify, okay, just TV and radio, then add and jingle, and it simply skips the question and goes to the last question that thanks the respondent. So to summarize what we've gone through today, in this model we covered the dynamic text replacement, which in SurveyToGo is referred to as text piping. We saw what are the functions that are used for question text, answer topic text, and survey instruction text. What's the difference between the function of replacing the entire text and replacing only parts of the text? How we use the placeholders to mark the places where we want to dynamically replace the text, and the fact that we can use several placeholders in each text. I referred you to the function library to consult it if you're not remembering exactly what's the correct format, parameters, etc. for each of those functions. We've also seen several examples regarding question text and answers and topics and multiple text replacement. And I thank you for following this session, and we look forward to having you following our next scripting online sessions. Thank you very much.